Right, excellent afternoon to all those who are watching me across the states in Nigeria. Yes, across the states in Nigeria, a nation known globally for food abundance, boosting diversity in agricultural produce, and is now a country with its own, how would I put it, it's just scrabbling, for food, in poverty, and of course in anger. And what wrong turn did we take? I'm asking in pain, because whichever way we want to look at it, mismanagement, as far as I'm concerned, is one of our problems, or is part of our abundance remains a problematic factor in this country called Nigeria. And again, I say welcome to another interesting episode of Real Talk with Kike. And of course, I remain the convener and the chief host of this platform. So guys, it's important for us to hear what On This Day Industry segment asks for us. When I come back, I give my own take on the analysis on this day industry segment. Stay with me, I'll be right back. This is Real Talk with Kike. All right, many thanks for staying with me. With this On This Day in history, by the time we reflect its relevance, to this day and time in the lives of Nigerians, many people will praise President Obasanjo a great deal, because the statistics are far, better, and people did not even have the level of challenges, despite Obasanjo's administration having its own fair share of challenges such as poverty, corruption, and ethnic tensions and the likes and all of that. I think just this is my take on this day industry segment. It's important for us to get a message from those who have put me on this platform. Let's get a message from them. And when I return, we'll go straight to the main conversation. Stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with me. Pockets of protests had broken out in Kano, in Niger, in Oyo, and in Osun, amongst other states, with protesters, urging the government to take decisive steps to bring the hardship to an end. And Nigeria's annual inflation rate climbed to a near almost 28-year high of almost 30% in January, up from almost 29% in December, and above market forecast of, again, almost, let's say 30%. And food prices are at an all-time high, with a bag of long grain rice eating 77,000, depending on the brand. I must emphasize, several videos online, have shown, lamentation regarding the increase in the prices of consumer goods like toothpaste, like butter, tin tomatoes, yam, among others, and asking the president, the sitting president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to intervene. And many have also expressed their willingness to say they are going to join the NLC protests to press home their demands for a change in the economic trajectory of the country that we are in today. And of course, on the live show, my interviews with my guests who will cover Nigerian inflation crisis, the labor union disputes, government response, minimum wage, negotiation, name it, public sentiment, economic and social impact, policy recommendations from different analysts, and of course the civil society's role, the future outlook, and of course, aiming to engage my viewers today on the complexities. We have cocktail of issues right now that I feel that the implications of this current economic situation needs to be brought to fore for discussion. And of course, I have my guest today is a professor of political science and former Secretary General of the African Association of Political Science. Before I bring my guest forward, or before we listen to my guest, I think it's important for us to play his profile, for you to see the caliber of the person that I've brought us today to talk about the cocktail of issues, of challenges that Nigeria is going through right now. Stay with me, I'll be right back. All right, welcome to the show, Professor Adele Jinadu. It's a pleasure to have you on Real Talk with Kike today. Many thanks for, doing your lunch time with us today. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm very fine. I'd like to say thank you for the honor of inviting me to be part of your wonderful program. It's a pleasure to be with you, and as well, of course, a call to duty.
I heard that yesterday. Let's just put that aside. Anyways, I must go straight to the topic at hand. I want to ask you, why do we have this many economic complications, coming out of this present administration and, of course, Tinubu's policies? When do the common man, find rest amidst all of this? If you listen to my opening, you will hear a cocktail of challenges that we are going through right now in this country. We practically have reversed our condition to the COVID-19 era, and that's the honest truth, where headsmen, or heads of people, have been seen scrambling in, tempered food, so to speak. How do we get here as a great nation that is known for boosting or boasting of food abundance? Right now, it seems as if we are also seeking for help. How did we get here, sir? I must ask you. Let's start from there.
Well, I must be a little bit humble to say that it's a very, very complex problem. Very, very complex. And it's also deep-rooted. It did not just start today. It did not just start about a year ago. It is very much rooted in our political history. And I like to approach your question by providing a framework within which to look at the present problem. Because I think we need to look at the general trend before we come to the particular. I think there are two problems. And those two problems derive from our failure to take seriously a very, very important section of the chapter 2 of our Constitution. That is chapter 14, section 14 of chapter 2, which says, 1, that sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, and it is from them that government derives its authority and power. I don't think we have taken that clause very, very seriously. We have not acted our responsibility as citizens in terms of, making sure that we exercise that sovereignty that we have and hold our politicians responsible. We have allowed them to dictate the pace of our politics, and we've taken very little interest, particularly in protecting our mandates during elections. I think that is number one, and that is deep-rooted, and that has served the politicians well, because it means that we are not holding them accountable. The second aspect of that clause 14 of Chapter 2 of our Constitution is that it says clearly that the security and welfare of Nigerians shall be the primary purpose of government. And because of that, governments, public authorities must implement those things that have been stipulated under Chapter 2 that must be the purpose of government, the fundamental principles of government, the directive principles of government, of state policy, and as it states. Now, from 1999, for example, even going back to 1979, when that clause was introduced in our Constitution, our politicians have consistently turned a blind eye to that chapter. They've neglected that chapter under the guise that it is not justiciable. But the fact that it is not justiciable does not remove the moral purpose that they have to bring those things about, particularly in terms of providing for what we call human security. If you look at the budget of governments at the federal level and at the state level since God knows when, 1999, you'll find that education, health, housing, water and sanitation, these are social and economic facilities that should enable Nigerians to enjoy the freedom given to them under Chapter 4, to hold government accountable. Those social facilities, if you look at the budget, you'll find that invariably they constitute less than 6 to 7% of the budget, either the federal government or the state governments. And when you look at actual money spent, they are even less than that. So I think you have two situations where our political class have not ruled the way they should rule in terms of putting as their primary purpose, the welfare and security of Nigerians, and enjoined on them under Chapter 2. And we citizens, we have not used that power of elections to hold our political class accountable. For example, there's another section of the Constitution, I can't remember what part, which says that every political party to be recognized and registered must commit itself to implementing Chapter 2. So the point I'm making, therefore, is that this neglect this neglect to enforce accountability through the fact that sovereignty belongs to us, on our politicians, and the fact that we have reneged on that sovereignty has led the politicians to behave any way they want to behave. And the result is that they have not prioritized the security and welfare of Nigerians. And I think now that we are faced with this huge economic crisis, I think the bottom line is that our politics has been wrong. Our politics has not served us well. And if we are to move forward, we must go back to how do we make politics serve us well. I think I will want to start on that basis.
All right, many thanks for that elaborate submission right there, because I heard everything that you have said, from sovereignty belonging to us, and of course our politicians not responding to the issues of the citizens in terms of protection, in terms of the mandate of the people, and of course taking us back to history since 1999, which I feel that education, housing, water, all of these are the basic economic facility that the citizen should enjoy. But putting that aside, with all that you've shared thus far, let's bring it to the present situation right now, because the TUC backed out, saying that they are not aware of the planned rally, and this caused a lot of crack in the world of the organized labor, although the NLC has also insisted that the 2-day rally must be held. Again, the TUC has also stated that they will not be part of the demonstration that is ongoing at the moment. I must ask you, sir, what is happening, with all the cracks that is going on from different walls? And of course, we hardly see I don't know, maybe I should say concentrated or determined position on strike actions. After a brief meeting today at the Aso Rock, was it today or yesterday, we hear that the strike has been cancelled. Again, Professor Jinadu, I must ask you, are the labours or the labour unions, are they the saboteurs or are they on the side of the Nigerian masses?
Well, I will go back to what I said earlier on. We don't need to depend on the labor union. We ourselves must organize our own. We must find a way of holding our political class accountable, because that is a right that is given to every Nigerian under Chapter 2. Whether the unions go on strike or don't they go, we have the right under Chapter 2 and under Chapter 4 to make governments know that they are not governing the way they should. And I think it is, that
peaceful protest is also what they are trying to take away from us in terms of fundamental human rights. What do you have to say to that?
No. They cannot take that right from us, because the foundation of it is Chapter 2, in terms of that sovereignty belongs to us as human. It does not say belongs to trade union. It does not say belongs to any organization. It belongs to Nigerians as a people. And government the right to spread. And then you go to Chapter 4, which now states certain fundamental rights that we have, including the right to free speech, the right to protest and organize ourselves in a way that is not against the law. So we have that right. That is what they call people's power. Because, it is possible, whether the TUC has been bought over or not, you see the history of where labor union leaders have used the opportunity that they have to advance themselves, become part of the system, part of the concept of labor aristocracy. That the labor people, the leadership, they are more or less co-opted. And look at how many of them are in government today.
If you talk, sir, apologies, I might have to interrupt your line of thought. If you talk about how many of them, let us address the minimum wage issue as highlighted by the labor unions. With the rate of inflation growth that is yet to be tamed, how do we want to adjust the minimum wage to the inflation, or should I say by addressing the inflation alone to enable the current minimum wage to be substantial for civil servants? That's my first question to you, sir. My second question, because of what you were saying earlier, is the fact that there's so much convolution or disaster coming out of a well thought out policies formulated by this economic team of the presidents at the moment. In simple terms rather, why are these policies in the monetary or fiscal side, failing at a point of implementation on the Nigerian system? I believe that one of the major challenges that we are facing today is about implementation.
Well, it is about implementation, but you cannot talk of implementation in terms of the policy you are trying to implement, because you also find that even the policy measures that have been taken, some of them, incrementally that have been taken, the implementation has not been as effective as you want us to be. One will expect. But you see, let me just make this point. I think it is very, very important. See, the point I'm making is that our trade unions, generally the mainstream trade union, has disappointed us, the workers, because they of course the idea is, well, they say they go out on strike for 2 days. After 3 days, they say they've discussed with government. Government has promised to listen to what they are doing. They go back. But what has government promised? And you find serially repeated. We are going back on strike because what they promised, they've not done it. ASU goes on strike because what government promised, they've not done it. So I think you need to take that as one aspect. But number two aspect is that the question of poverty this question of wage slavery or wage labor is not limited to the formal sector, in the private sector and the state sector alone. There is a lot of informality. There is a lot of people outside of the state sector who are eking a life daily, and government policies is affecting whether you revise minimum wage 1 million tomorrow or not. There are still over several millions who are in the majority who are not in the state sector. How do they live? How do they survive? And that is the reason why we are saying that no, this is a right that belongs to Nigerians. Let them come out. I mean, not every Nigerian is a member of the labor union or a member of the CUC, but there are many Nigerians who are outside of the formal sector, who are in the informal sector, who are, go through Lagos today, see a number of people living under the bridges, see people who cannot eat, see people who are unemployed, see people who are hawking things on the street. These are human beings. They are Nigerians also. And so what we are saying is that we need to look at beyond that. That is because when labor union and government, when they negotiate, a lot of things go under the table. Right. But are they representing the interest of their workers? So let us put. But what I'm also saying that there's a larger section of Nigerians who should concern us. The beggar on the street, the person who is sleeping. Every night when I drive home, go through all the bridge, underneath of the bridge. People are sleeping under them. They have nowhere to go. They have no shelter. People defecate outside.
All right, sir. I hear.
I think what I'm making.
I hear you, sir. I'm trying to manage time right now, and I must ask you this question before we go on a break, because as a political scientist, I would like you to explain to Nigerian masses who have a very good policy like subsidy removal and others, since the beginning of the administration. There's a reason why I'm using the word good policy, because there's a lot of controversy regarding that. 9 months ago, yet not working. For example, people are now saying if it is this subsidy removal, so to speak, that has caused all of these issues, let subsidy be replaced, is what some people are bringing to fore. What are your thoughts or your explanation on this? That's my first question to you, sir. My second question, because of time, is that one of the labor union leaders in a meeting actually attributed the food inflation to the bad importation. The price of 50 kg bag of foreign rice has, surged to over 88,000 naira. Again, I must emphasize, depending on the brand. And this is across major stores in Nigeria, which is about almost 23% higher than the 72,000 recorded earlier in the month of January. Is the food importation ban, sir, the way out for hyperinflation in the food prices that we're going through right now? What's your take on this? I'll need your voice on these real issues that we're going through.
Subsidy is not the problem. The problem is the corruption that takes place within it. And we have not addressed the issue of that corruption. For example, those who have been importing phantom oil into the country, who receive a lot of money for not being paid, for what they did not deliver. What has been done to them? So it's the common man who is still suffering. And in any case, removing the subsidy on oil now has also increased the price of oil for the common man. And as it is now, it is being argued that subsidy has come back because the landing price of fuel, they claim, is more than what is being paid. So it is not, subsidy is not the problem. It is the corruption that feeds it and the leakages in the system. The second point I will make, of course, is that no country should depend on food importation for its survival. We are blessed. I can understand in Saudi Arabia, in the desert, and so on and so forth, but we are blessed with food. And the food importation we are talking about, what is it? Rice imported from China. We can produce our rice here. What we are importing, vegetable oil, importing it from abroad. So, but these are luxury items that the elite people are. We import toothpicks, we import toothbrushes, we import toothpaste. but the common man doesn't, we import butter. So what I'm simply saying is that there is capacity for food production in this country. That there should be no poverty in this country, and we need to improve our distribution mechanism. I mean, you can see how many food items got rotten on the way, being transferred from one part of the country to the other. So I think that is my answer to the two questions.
All right, many thanks for your insight. We'll go on a quick break, and when I return, the conversation will continue. Stay with me. I'll be right back. This is Real Talk with Kike. All right, glad to know you're still right there with us. In case you just joined the show, today's conversation is about the condition of Nigerians and, of course, the Nigerian economy with the recent hardship in the country. And I've been discussing the cost of living standard, the labor union, and, of course, the nationwide protest with my resourceful guest, Professor Adele Jinadu. And I must say many thanks, for all insight that you've been sharing with us. And he has been taking us through the dimensions of the current national challenges and the policies of the federal government in addressing all the issues, that we are going through right now. And I must say many thanks again, Professor Jinadu, for all that you've shared thus far. But quickly, let me use this opportunity to open our phone lines. Remember that if you're watching me right now, you can, join in by calling the studio number 080-988-77-400, showing on your screen right now. And of course, we're streaming live from Facebook, on YouTube, both on Real Talk with Kike and of course on Silverbird platform. Sir, I like the perspective that you've used to answering most of my questions, but let's talk about the building on your own analysis of the Naira's depreciation, so to speak, because I need you to bring to fore what strategies, someone like you would recommend to address the economic and political factors contributing to this decline.
Again, I can only talk in general terms because, I've not really carried out in-depth study of CBN policy, and I will not claim to know, the details of that. But two things is clear to me. Definitely, the two-type foreign exchange currency policy has encouraged the corruption of the foreign exchange system. It has encouraged it to the extent to which it has led to round tripping. There are some people who are privileged. They buy naira, they buy dollar. Let's say, for example, as official rates, this hypothetical official rate of 200 naira to a dollar or 400 naira to a dollar. They buy it in thousands or millions of dollars, and then they go and sell it on the parallel market or at the below the change level at, let's say, 600, 700 naira, and you can see, so it encourages speculation. Speculators thrive on it, and some bankers have been penalized for that. I won't mention names, for this round tripping. So that is one aspect of it. The other aspect is that I was telling somebody the other day that, you see, do we need to follow the prescription of the IMF to devalue our money so as to make our, imports, less expensive, and we get more for it than to be importing things? But I know, say in the 1980s, 1990s, when the IMF was really pushing for devaluation in developing countries, Ethiopia refused to devalue. If you went to Ethiopia between 1980, 20-year period, 25-year period, it was $1 to 8 Ethiopian bill. They refused to devalue. Now, when they devalued, it was really marginal, and it has stayed at that level. They've just refused to devalue. So I think there must be reason why they've not done that. Somebody was telling me that probably it is the discipline they have, and the less reliance on luxury goods that are being imported into the country. And that corruption, that because of the social structure there, even to get official, I mean, there's no the double share of foreign exchange. You buy it from anywhere, but even to get it was difficult. But here you go to the stores, you go everywhere, you see, people exchanging money on the street sometimes, and so on and so forth. And I think the other aspect of it that we need to be careful about, because I'm saying this with a lot of reservation, is that, I've been told, and I don't know what effect this will have on the money in circulation in terms of the confidence in our money. But there's a lot of fake naira in circulation. And which is also a lot of fake dollar in circulation.
Apologies, I might have to interrupt your line of thoughts, sir. We have Mr. Akonde from Abuja on the line. Mr. Akonde, many thanks for calling. Please make your thoughts count. What's your contribution on the topic at hand?
Thank you. I love the area where the Prof said there are many people that are not on the state. And is it possible for people, this sector that the Prof is talking about, is it possible to have a separate union? Because I think like the NSC for the workforce.
Apologies, I have to let this caller go. Please, when you're calling in, I would appreciate if you can, tone down the volume of your TV set and just make your thoughts count. Sir, again, many thanks for all that you've shared thus far. But I must bring you to, I must bring your attention to this, because when I was doing a bit of research on you, I read your most interview that was published by Punch newspaper, and I have a few questions for you, because considering your assessment of Nigerian politics, could you elaborate on the observed gap in elites, the elites and the elite accord, and of course the implications of the legitimization state situation at the moment? I would appreciate if you can further elaborate on that.
Well, the basic point I was trying to make is that the elite consensus that you need in any system among our rulers has broken down. And that elite consensus has broken down because the party system we have is not serving as a buckle that should hold us together as a nation. But unfortunately, the ethnic factor has come in, and that has created a lot of mistrust, a lot of lack of cohesion among that, and it's getting to us as a people. That is number one. Number two is that our political leaders, in their political practice, they practice law, they practice politics as if it is an immoral, that morality doesn't play a part in it. And in doing that, they also separate morality from law, that morality has no place in fact, morality should be the anchor of law. So when they pass laws, they just see laws as another instrument to pursue what they are doing. They do not see law as coming from a moral law that they impose on themselves, that they must obey it, even if it is against their selfish interest. What you call their baser interest. It's like this has roots in the Bible and the Quran. Avoid all temptation. There must be a higher moral law that you must subscribe to, so that you are not tempted to do what is wrong. If you are driving at night and the red light stops you, you don't say because there are no lawyers, no policemen around, you go through. You stop. Because that is a law you have imposed on yourself. There's nobody watching you, and you move. So it is that kind of thing that we talk about. The spirit of the law is very, very important, and that has not featured. And because the spirit of the law, the the law in that sense of a law you impose on yourself to restrain your baser instincts is weak among our politicians. And that is why they pass law and then they find ways of going around the law and so on, technicalities and this and that, and they involve other people in it. So I think we need a self-imposed law that should guide them. And so that goes back to the question of character. And it's because they do not see this, they do not see politics as a moral venture to pursue a moral higher order. It's because they don't see that there's no character in our politics. There's no character. Look at those who are ruling us today. Look at how many of them have been indicted by AEFCC or are probed by the ENCC. The political parties do not place emphasis on character. What they place emphasis in their primaries is through exchange, transactional politics. How much money do you have to give to buy my votes so that we can vote for you? And that goes down to us, the people too. How much money do you give me for me to vote for you? And that goes back to what I said earlier on, between in terms of clause 14 of Chapter 2 of our Constitution. One, power derives from the people to the government, and government must act to promote the welfare of the people. I think it's important to place emphasis on this. And I think it's also a pity in our society, those who should act as moral leaders. You look at the religious clerisy, you look at the university, look at professionals. We are not providing that. So it's a huge problem that is of concern to me, because unless you get the morality of politics right, we keep on going on in circles.
All right, many thanks again for that elaborate submission right there regarding power of character, and of course in terms of self-imposed law that we must hold our leaders on. But putting that aside, because all that you've shared right now is taking me to just this early morning message, that I stumbled on social media, which is the Nigerians that received the Steve Orosoya's report on the restructuring and of course the rationalization of federal government agencies, and of course parastatals. Thank you. And reading all of that on social this morning, I kept on wondering, pensions transitional board and of course the National Senior Secondary Education Commission are to be scrapped. I would want your own take on the reaction to this new rationalization and restructuring, which you have mentioned a couple of times in your message. And secondly, because I know that we are running out of time right now, is the fact that agencies like NIDCOM will be relocated under Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and of course Niger Delta Power Holding Company to return under Ministry of Power. Some Nigerians see clash of authority. Maybe I should be more transparent. People like me feel that there will be clash of authority in terms of jurisdiction, in terms of efficiencies of these agencies. How can this restructuring, sir, with your wealth of knowledge, be properly managed to reduce further crises that we are going through right now?
Well, I think I take a more nuanced view of this. I think the justification, when I read the Oronasai report several years ago, it was first published in 2012, I think, and I've not really looked at it. It provided good reasons why we need to rationalize the various MDAs, because they are more or less they are doing the same thing. There is a lot of overlap in their functions and their purposes, and therefore we need to rationalize them. But that took place over since 2012, over 10 years ago. Now, to do it now in a different context, I think we need to be very careful in moving along. And I think we should not also take note of one very, very important thing that led to the Orosoya report. How do you reform the civil service, the public service, to become efficient, productive, and effective? So it is not just rationalization alone, but it is rationalization for the purpose not just of reducing costs, but also for the purpose of effective public service delivery. Now, we know today that the public service is in a bad shape. I mean, that nobody denies that it's in a bad shape. The morale is low. The ethnic factor has eroded the merit principle. So going forward, the important thing is not just to rationalize ministries and departments. How do you improve the public service to be an effective machine of development? That is the issue that we need to be looking at.
All right, many thanks. I think that might be my last question to you, sir. And unfortunately, I cannot take more questions because we need to move to the last segment of the show that we call Trendings. But I want to thank you so much for all your analysis thus far, and of course for lending your voice on issues that affect us all, and for saying the truth and keeping it real. People like you are people who can actually hold our leaders to accountable to some of the ills that we are going through. But quickly, sir, the first trending story that caught my attention this morning is, or yesterday rather, is Abia State, that beat Lagos. Lagos and others, let me now concentrate on Lagos and others to become, the first state in Nigeria with 24 hours power. Well, I must say that maybe from where I'm coming from, I've been expecting 24 hours power until now that, they've been reshuffling the light and all of that. But the former Minister for Power, Professor Bath, Naji, built the $800,000 power dollars plant expected to solve the power equation, in the Eyimba city and of course in the entire Abia state. And we saw that, and Abia is said to consume only about 100 megawatts of power, while the balance of the 88 megawatts will be exported to the national grid according to the management of the power giants. And of course the geometric power is arguably the largest single investment in the southeast, and this is a fantastic one if you ask me. It's very commendable in terms of the effort from Abia state government and of course the private bodies engaged in this, because it takes also the private sectors and the government to come together to give their states a better living. And we can see the effect of individual states playing out here, if you ask me. If each state were left to their own fate to do things by themselves, I believe that they will equally flourish, even brighter than Lagos, in terms of performing acts. Yes, I said so on this platform because sometimes I feel that history is there for us to learn from. When Lagos State was denied revenue and allocation from the federal government during Obasanjo's administration, Lagos stood alone under Bola Ahmed Tinubu and internally generated revenue. In terms of the IGR of Lagos, began to grow, and we saw how everything began to transform. But the fact is that, most states, today continue to rely on federal government, and that makes most of us, or most of them, redundant, if that's the word to use right now, in terms of, underperforming their duties and all. So other states can just take a cue from this and apply their own internal effort, to create, a stable power supply rather, and then export to the national grid, across board. These are initiatives that can be applied to agriculture, education, name it, health, commercial sector. These are ways that we can actually, revamp ourselves, and that is the kind of progress that I feel that we need at this moment in this country, Nigeria. Not all the complacent state government also blaming the federal government for their own incompetencies, and I just feel that all of this must come to an end. Sir, what's your take on this trend? I'm sure you must have seen.
No, I agree entirely with you. I congratulate the Abia state government on what it has done. I think it's a model that other states should emulate. I also want to congratulate my very good friend, Bath Naji. We served together on the National Merit Award some years back, and I know how committed he is to this. I'm happy that this is happening in his lifetime. But I also want to sound a note of caution. You see, the pursuit of internally generated revenue should not be an avenue for rent seeking, in the sense that the IGR is not put to what it should be put. In fact, it is the source of a lot of leakages. And what the IGR should be used for, it is not used for it. The second point I want to make with IGR is that don't make life difficult for your citizens because you are pursuing IGR. Multiple taxation. For the sake of multiple taxation, of just getting it, and you are reporting that our IGR has gone up, and there's nothing to show for it on the ground. And people are suffering everywhere because of multiple taxation. The federal level, the state level, the local government, the world level, people are more or less, collecting tax and making life difficult for human beings. Just the other day, somebody came on my door here in Dolphin Estate, knocked on the door. Yes, he said they are going around. They want to collect money for sewage, whatever it is. And I said, look, what we already paid. And the people, they came in uniform, no notice, they're just collecting money. So I think, yes, IGR, but IGR must also be free from corruption, free from rent-seeking activities. Because there are many states today in in Nigeria, where IGR has gone up, and you see nothing for it on the instead it is being shared among rent seekers.
Well said, sir. Well said. Yeah. Many thanks, sir. Well, let's quickly take our second trending story because of time. The second trending story that caught my attention is that of the attacks on the Bureau de Change, that's the BDC's operators with the ill advice. Sir, earlier when you were talking about some bankers being penalized for certain issues, let me first of all say this, because Peter Obi has spoken a partial truth. When I saw this online, it is true to some extent and partially wrong from another dimension. And what dimension am I coming from? One is that it is true with the following simple explanation. We don't need to bamboozle Nigerians with two economic jargons. Pardon my word right now. I try to keep it real on this platform, because the BDCs are not the primary suppliers of forests today. The banks are the primary suppliers. And I like when you were talking earlier, Professor Adele, when you were talking about some of the challenges that we are facing in the bank, and the bank are the ones that are actually the cause of some of this problem. The Nigerian government, the CBN, the finance minister, and everybody knows that the banks are the ones in their corrupt operations in terms of proliferation that the forest market is going through right now. They sell to the BDC operators through the back door, through illicit and illegal means, and we all know that we see all that is happening in our banks today. At the end of the day, trader can't have access to dollars to import its goods from overseas, while the families and relatives of bankers and bank managers, we have access to millions of dollars. Hello, why are we deceiving? We saw that also in a plain site during the Naira redesign in 2023. People could hardly get beyond 10,000 Naira at the ATMs, while POS operators were basically selling Naira and making outrageous profits with the Naira. I myself, I had no option than to go and meet these people, and they were benefiting money from me because I needed cash. I wonder why the government is going after the BDC operators when they should be going after the bank managers in terms of the corporate cards today. And on the second note, sir, before I come to you, is the fact that I say that the BDC operators are complicit, but secondary because they are also within the chain of that demand and supply of forest instrument, and they are ordering or price fixing, causing the secondary inflation in forest market today. Everybody is one way or the other complicit in this trend. I try to find a balance when I'm giving my own analysis or my own thoughts, since this is where I can actually share my own thoughts. As a host, you're not supposed to have an opinion, but the last segment of the show gives me a reason to actually bear my mind, because we have seen individuals like you and I, who are slashing up dollars in houses because we think that they can profit from it when the value further depreciates. So we know that ourselves, we are also the people causing the issue. We are, in fact, let me call it a space for it. It's a matter that pots calling kettle black is this situation at hand, because our private and unnecessary demand of forest currencies raising the inflation in the forest market. And to tackle this issue right now, sir, this is gradually, not even spontaneously moving the economy from a consumption to a production where we keep fighting corruption with decisive measures, not trivial measures. And that's one of the reasons why we are still going through some of the challenges we are going through today. So can we stop all the deceit that is going on right now? What's your take on this in 1 minute, if it's possible, because we need to
I agree entirely with you. And don't feel apologetic. You should also speak the truth as you see it. You have that responsibility. And that's why some of us have been talking also in spite of, oh, you talk too much, you annoy the people, but you owe that responsibility to yourself and to the country. And I think it's also important to make this point. When we are talking on these various talk shows, we are not only talking to ourselves or to people, we are also talking to the future. To the future. We are talking to the future. And I think it's important. That is why it is not useful to keep quiet, because you are not just speaking for now, you are speaking to the future as well. I think it's important to make that point. And I agree entirely with you. The forest crisis is a crisis of the elite. How many poor people go on medical tourism abroad and need money? How many poor people need money to send their children to school abroad? How many? Instead of fixing the schools here. Fixing the schools here.
Those are part of the challenges we are facing, and unfortunately we cannot take more thought on this. But I must say many thanks, Professor Adele Jinadu, for all that you've shared thus far on the platform. And indeed it has been an awesome show today, courtesy you are a resourceful guest, Professor Jinadu, and I wish you the very best as you continue to forge ahead in your career path. And of course I pray for longevity in sparkling of health for you. We need people like you alive to continue to lend your voice to issues that concerns us all. Thank you so much for honoring my invite. I wish you the very best.
I was 80 today, and I'm hoping to go up to over 100.
Yeah, 80? Oh God, you don't look like one. You don't look like one.
Keep on. For you, the sky is the limit. So keep on, and I'm happy to be part of this enterprise. Thank you for inviting me. It's a big honor, because I always feel it that every opportunity one gets, one should be able to offer a different perspective about what is happening. Thank you.
Bye now.